You know that look that someone gets when they find out that a retiree is still renting? Like, oh no, that poor guy, he never quite figured it out. Like, renting in retirement is some kind of admission of failure. Proof that, well, you didn't plan well enough, you didn't save hard enough, didn't make the right moves. And yeah, I've given that look more than once. Honestly, I was that guy. The one quietly judging the retiree renting an apartment, thinking, man, if he'd just done the work, he wouldn't be in that situation. And then my buddy John, back in Indiana, he flipped the whole thing on me. And now I'm not sure that I was a smart one in that equation. So hey, what's up everyone? If you're new here, my name is Jason. I retired 9 years ago at 39. And now I spend way too much time thinking about personal finance and retirement strategy. And look, right now we're in Japan and it's full bloom cherry blossom season. I mean, we couldn't have timed it better. It is absolutely stunning here. And now that we're early retired, this is what we get to do on a typical Thursday morning. It's why I encourage everyone to retire as early as they possibly can. I mean, look at this place. It's magical. I want to talk about something that's been rattling around in my head for a few weeks now. Ever since I had this conversation with my buddy John back in Indiana. And it genuinely made me question something that I believed, no, actually preached for years. See, I always said that if you want the best shot at a successful retirement, you need a paid off house. You need to own it outright. No mortgage, no landlord, no rent checks going out the door every month. That was my gospel. That was the play. And then John calls me up and he's just talking about how he's thinking about selling his house, taking the equity and just, well, renting for the rest of his retirement. And my first reaction, I'll be honest, was, John, what the heck are you doing, man? But then he started walking me through his thinking. And here's the thing, I really couldn't argue with him. So today I want to share what John said, what the numbers actually show, and why renting a retirement might be, and I can't believe that I'm saying this, the smarter financial move for more people. Okay, so here's where I want to start, because most people, including me for a long time, think of a paid off house as this beautiful cost-free asset. Like, well, the mortgage is gone, so I'm done, right? But that's not really how it works, is it? See, even when your mortgage is paid off, the house is still running a tab on you every single month. Property taxes, homeowners insurance, HOA fees if you got them, and maintenance, which is the sneaky one that nobody budgets for properly. Here's what most people don't realize. Financial planners and real estate analysts, they generally say that you should budget between 1% and 4% of your home's value every single year just for maintenance and repairs. So if you've got a $400,000 house, and that's not even an expensive house in most markets right now, you're looking at anywhere from $4,000 to $16,000 a year just to keep it running. And a Zillow and Thumbtack analysis found that when you stack up all the hidden costs of homeownership, taxes, insurance, utility, maintenance, the average homeowner is spending around $14,000 a year on top of whatever their mortgage payment was. The water heater doesn't care that you're retired. The roof, that doesn't care either. And the HVAC system absolutely does not care. These things will break, and they will break at the worst possible time. So look at this place, guys. Have you ever seen a place more beautiful? Real quick, if you're someone who's been grinding toward retirement and just assume that owning your home outright was automatically the safest financial move, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it's helping you think differently about this whole thing. Because I think there's a lot of people who need to hear this. Okay, so this is the part of the conversation with John that actually stopped me in my tracks. And this is where it gets really interesting, because it's not just about what you spend on the house, it's about what you give up by having your money locked inside of it. So let's say that you got a paid off house worth around $500,000. That's $500,000 sitting in a physical asset that you can't touch, can't spend, can't invest, well, unless you sell it or borrow against it, that equity is just frozen there. Meanwhile, you might be watching your investment accounts like a hawk every single month, stressing about whether you're drawing it down too fast. Now, here's the math that John laid on me. If you sold that house, paid taxes, transaction costs, let's say you walk away with $400,000 clear, and you put that into a diversified investment portfolio. Historically, you'd be looking at an average annual returns of around 7% over the long term. That's roughly $30,000 a year in returns on that capital. If you're renting a nice place for, say, $2,000 a month, that's $24,000 a year in rent, which means that theoretically, your investments are covering your rent and then some. And you still have $430,000 principal working for you. Now, I want to be super clear here. I'm not a financial advisor, and I'm not telling you that this is what you should do. Everyone's situation is different. Every market is different, and investment returns are never guaranteed. But the point is that equity is not doing nothing. It has an opportunity cost, and most people just don't run that calculation. And here's the thing that I think is actually driving most of this, and it's not really financial at all. It's more psychological. It's identity. For a lot of people, and I get this, I really do, your home is a symbol. It says that I made it. It's where the kids grew up, where holidays happened, where life happened. And choosing to walk away from that and rent, it feels like kind of like giving up, like you're going backwards somehow. But look, and this is something that I've really had to ponder over. Your memories, they don't live in the walls of a house. They live in you. The identity that you built as a homeowner doesn't disappear just because you hand over the keys. You don't become less financially responsible. You don't become less of an adult. If anything, choosing what actually serves your financial future over what looks like the right move, that's a sign of real financial maturity. There's also this deeply ingrained idea that renting is, well, just throwing away money. You hear that all the time. But think about it. When you own, you're paying property taxes, insurance, interest on any debt tied to the property, and maintenance costs. None of that builds equity either. You're not throwing money away when you rent. You're paying for shelter, for flexibility, and for the peace of mind of knowing that when the boiler explodes at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, it's not your problem. And here's something that really surprised me when I looked into this. My friend John is clearly not the only one thinking this way, because the data shows that seniors are already moving in this direction in a massive way. Between 2013 and 2023, the number of renters aged 65 and older grew by 2.4 million people. That's nearly a 30% increase. And that's not Gen Z moving into apartments. That's retirees, people who often have the option to own, choosing not to. In fact, seniors over 65 are now the fastest growing renter demographic in America. And among renters aged 50 and over, about 75% say that they plan to keep renting going forward. That's not a fluke, that's a pattern. And it suggests that a lot of people are quietly running those numbers and arriving at the same place that John did. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but what about stability? What about having a guaranteed roof over your head? And that's a fair point. I'm not dismissing it. But here's what I want you to really think about. Retirement, it's not always a perfectly stable, nothing changes for 30 years chapter of your life. Things shift. Your health changes, your family situation changes. Maybe you want to move closer to your kids. Maybe you realize, like I did, that you actually want to spend a significant amount of time abroad or in different cities. Maybe your mobility changes and you need a single level layout or an elevator building. If you own a house and life changes, you've got a whole project on your hands before you can respond to it. Fix it up, stage it, deal with showings, wait on inspections, try to time the market. That's a lot of friction at exactly the moment when you need to be able to move quickly and with low stress. Renting gives you the ability to respond to your actual life rather than work around the property. Now, the obvious pushback here is that rent goes up and you can get priced out. You don't have control. And yeah, all that's true. Renting is definitely not without risk. You can have a landlord who drags their feet on repairs, a lease that doesn't get renewed, noisy neighbors. Those are all real downsides. And honestly, you're not building equity in the traditional sense. I mean, if the housing market runs up over the next decade and you're renting, you won't capture those gains. And that does matter. But here's what most people don't realize. Home ownership costs, those go up too. Property taxes have been crushing retirees in markets all over the country. Insurance premiums are spiking in a lot of states. HOA fees creep up every year. The difference in those costs tend to show up in big, irregular, unpredictable chunks rather than a steady, planned monthly figure. In retirement, predictability is worth something. And knowing your number, even if it's not the lowest number, has genuine value when you're managing a fixed income or drawing down a portfolio. So, where does this leave me? Well, honestly, I'm still thinking about it. I'm not ready to sell my house tomorrow. But what John did was make me question an assumption that I never really questioned. That owning outright was automatically the right move, full stop, no discussion. And I think the real answer here, and this is not a cop-out, is that it genuinely depends on who you are, what your numbers look like, and what your retirement is actually supposed to be. I think that homeownership versus renting, it's ultimately a lifestyle choice. And there are legitimate, compelling arguments on both sides. There's no universal right answer. So what I'd encourage you to do, and this is the most actionable thing that I can leave you with, is to actually run your own numbers, not the idealized version, not the emotional version, the real one. What does it cost you to own? What would you do with that equity if it were liquid? How important is flexibility versus stability? How do you feel about travel, about moving, about community? Those answers are different for every single person watching this. Travel, freedom, security, stability. What matters to you might be completely different from what matters to the person right next to you. And the right financial decision is the one that actually aligns with your life, not the one that looks best on paper or impresses people at dinner. So think it through, crunch your own numbers, and don't let social pressure or old assumptions make a $500,000 decision for you. All right, I want to hear from you. Are you team own, team rent, or are you somewhere in the middle? Drop it in the comments. And if this video gave you something to think about, hit that like button. It really does help the channel. I'll see you guys on the next one.